We actually got in Guinness World of Records for the video that got the highest number of views in 24 hours.
Wow.
People are fed up with ads. We are exposed to more than 40,000 messages a day. The moment we wake up and we take that phone to the moment we go to bed, a lot of articles and a lot of people are talking about brand purpose as part of your business strategy and how to use it. It's like, no, there's none of that. Brand purpose is not about profit, is not about your business strategy, is none of that. It's the why. Why are you doing it? And if the answer for that is to make money, that's not your purpose.
When budgets are in mind, you've got to understand what's working, what isn't working, where to place more time and effort, and also keep your finger on the pulse because the world's always changing.
Brands send you an email with a discount for an item you just bought, and you're like, why are you doing this? I'm so annoyed.
We want to see the brands being clever. We expect it, and that's where digital really comes into play right now. Hey guys, and welcome to another, what is going to be amazing episode of Marketing in the Madness. And I'm saying Marketing in the Madness, not Mad Fest, which I did by mistake the other day. So with me today, I have an amazing female powerhouse in the world of digital and marketing. Laricea, now I've got to say your name right here. I'm going to get it wrong. Laricea, you say your name because otherwise...
Laricea Roman-Halliday.
Yeah, and Laricea not only is the author of this fantastic book, A Brand's Purpose, Less Unicorn, More Zebra, which I think we'll probably dive into some of the learnings from this today, which she's very kindly gifted me, but has also led marketing and digital campaigns for some of the biggest, most well-known brands out there, from Google to Boohoo, Tesco, and also some huge gambling institutions. So we are going to have a very exciting conversation. We're going to cover a lot, but of course, as always, my main focus for the podcast is to really delve into and talk about the marketing innovations that you guys need to know to get further, faster, and specifically at the moment, because date stamp, it's currently December 2023. This will probably come out early 2024. Laricea and I are going to talk about some of the things you guys need to know to get ahead in 2024, especially with the market being, I don't know, tougher in terms of budgets. A lot of brands are having budgets pulled, meaning innovation and creativity is having to really rise to the front. So Larissa's going to kind of chat through some of the amazing things that she's done throughout her career and recently at Boohoo to really help the brands do, get further with less, basically. So I'm hoping that's going to be very helpful for lots of you at the moment. So Laricea, before we do that, I've obviously talked about some of the brands that you've worked at, but can you go into a bit more detail about the kind of roles that you've had, your career to date, and and also being a mum, what you're doing right now?
Yeah, absolutely. No, thank you so much for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I think it's a very interesting story I've got. So I started off coming from my master's degree in London, and I never intended to stay. I just wanted to do my master's degree in marketing. I love marketing, that bachelor's degree in marketing and master's in marketing, and I wanted to go back home. And it was very interesting because I absolutely loved it, and I put all my heart into it, like I do for everything. I got a distinction, and I was lucky enough to get a job offer on the back of that. So, for whoever's saying that, education is not important, I think it definitely is. And it definitely gave me that boost. And I didn't know anyone in the industry. So it was literally just that sort of luck I had at that point in time. And then from there, it was just history because I got a job, another job, and another job. And then I stayed. And then I married a guy from Kent, and now new mom as well. So never intending to stay. And then 15 years later, here I am. So I worked at various different companies. I started off agency side, and I used to work on Microsoft on paid search, funnily enough. I was working on the Playbox account, which was quite funny. And then I moved into new business. So I learned a lot about pitching and new business. And I pitched for Unilever. I will never forget. It was my first big pitch, pitching for Unilever. So IPG Group, I was working at Initiative. They were pitching for Unilever back then. And I got to travel around Europe, and it was absolutely fabulous, especially as a really young person who just got in the industry. And then after that, I thought digital marketing is really interesting and I would love to learn more about the different channels. So I started dipping my toes in very different channels. So I did a little bit of display, I did a little bit of video, a little bit of that, social. So just to get up to speed to all of them and kind of decide where I want to be. And then I moved working on basically everything. So being an account manager at Essence, which used to be an independent agency, and they have Google. So I used to work on Google. So the Chrome family, as they used to call it. So Chromecast, if anyone remembers the little stick you would plug into your TV, ancestor of Netflix, so watching on demand, and then Chromebooks and the actual browser Chrome. And funnily enough, I actually launched Chromecast in Western Europe, which was insane. Like that was the biggest, like one of my biggest career highlights because the budgets were massive. I used to have millions a month, and I used to be in a position where, you know, you've got to be so creative, but also making sure that you spend every single penny. That was like the worst nightmare for Google, not to be able to spend all the money, but also spending it efficiently. So it was really, really interesting, but also it was that point in my life and my career where I realized that you can easily lose your mind. So because I was working so many hours and so hard, I start feeling very unwell. And after, I think I've done around 2 years of that, so it was super intense. It was amazing. I loved it, and I learned a lot. But it was too intense, and it took a toll on my mental and physical health. So I didn't take the role at Google when I was offered because I thought it was way too much. So I stayed agency, but I went a little bit lower profile, if you like. So I moved to Hyundai at Havas, which was very interesting because we actually got in Guinness World of Records for the video that got the highest number of views in 24 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So they did a campaign to launch a new car. And it was filmed from the space by using, so they used the car to write a message in the desert that an astronaut from the space could see. So it was a happy birthday message for an astronaut. And it was done with a car in the desert. And obviously it got like so many views. And of course it was like a 360 campaign around it. But for that, it got like the biggest number of views, well, back then. And yeah, we got into the Guinness World of Records, which was quite insane. And then yeah, I moved agency again. So I moved to work on Huawei, when Huawei, no one knew how to pronounce it.
Yeah. Yeah, well done. You've just taught me something.
Yeah, how to pronounce that brand. And, you know, there was that stigma around Chinese brands. So it was a massive task to launch them in Western Europe. And I was part of the team, again, launching them. And I think the biggest lesson there was that you can't overspend people like Apple and Samsung, which were the biggest competitors. So you always have to outsmart someone. So outsmarting, that was the key word that I've learned from that period. And, you know, doing things differently, learning that, you know, if your target audience, if you can't spend that much money on TV, let's say where the other two were, find different channels and find like subcultures and find niches and things like that. So I've learned a lot in terms of strategy, and I think that's where I kind of really polished my strategist career, and worked on a lot of strategy because they were launching products like non-stop. So from smartwatch, they were amongst the first ones, to obviously mobile phones, tablets, etc. So we had like continuous launches. So I had to work on strategies for launching. So started off with like launching Huawei as a brand in Western Europe, and then moving into like product launches. So very, very interesting period. Also very interesting from a cultural perspective, to realize how lucky we are that we are in this country and we do have normal working hours and we work with normal people. I witnessed some incredibly awful situations where I had to protect my team, and, you know, clients were awful to agencies and spoken really bad at and treated really badly. So I think it was the first time in my life when I was senior enough to got exposed to all these things and start protecting teams. It was exceptionally tough, but as I said, I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot in terms of strategy. And then from there, I felt like I was ready to take on a more senior role, and I became head of marketing for the specialist wax, which is, I think now is called the What's Possible group. And I head up all the digital channels. Which was absolutely brilliant because obviously I was very young, so given a lot of responsibility at a very, very young. I was 28 only, and head of digital. It was brilliant, and that was a brilliant company, and I've learned a lot from there. And yeah, I got exposed to a lot of clients from various different industries, from really big ones to really small boutique ones or just launching. I got to travel with the clients a lot, so it was a fantastic time in my life, and that's when I got married as well, so it was absolutely fabulous. And then funnily enough, Entain, which was my next role, party casino, so gambling, they were one of the clients of the specialist wax, and I got headhunted by them. And funnily enough, I moved at party casino, which they were running their offline activities, so their TV activities with the specialist wax. So I maintain the relationship, if you like. And yeah, that was really huge role because I became head of marketing, so it was all channels. But it was a very challenging time of my life because it was during the pandemic, so I started right in March. So I never went to the office. I only went to the office to collect my laptop, and I will never forget, I crossed London Bridge, and I was the only person on London Bridge, if you can imagine, which is completely impossible. Like, even if you go at 2 a.m, you'd be still surrounded by people on London Bridge. I was the only person at the train station, because if you remember right at the beginning, you had like a real good reason and some papers to show that you were going, because otherwise you're not allowed to get out of the house. Obviously, I just started the job and I needed my laptop. So yeah, I'll never forget that day. So that was the only time I went to the office, apart from the 2 interviews in person, and it was all online, and that was very challenging. I found that exceptionally hard, especially because people were scattered across the world, like various different parts of Europe, in Africa as well, in Asia, in America. It was a nightmare. And that's where I start having like much older people reporting into me. And it became like very, very difficult to manage and to keep that under control, but also the sort of the culture of giving your absolute best, but still that's still not good enough, which, on one hand it's good because it pushes you to do incredible things, but at the same time it erodes you, and you get more and more depressed and down, because no matter what you do and no matter how big that is, it will never be good enough, and there's always space for more. So that was very tough, but then I think what I achieved there, like, it was extraordinary, because managed to close the first partnership between a gambling brand and Formula One. So we start sponsoring McLaren. No other gambling brand in the world has done that. So that was quite something. We really broke the ice there. They're still doing it now. It's like a 5-year partnership, and that was incredible. So I was very proud of myself for doing that. But again, really challenging and difficult role, especially not being able to see people in person, engage with them and interact, and yeah, really hard time there. And then I moved to Boohoo Group to head up 3 of the 13 brands, so the ex-Arcadia brands, which are Wallis, Burton and Dorothy Perkins. Again, I joined as head of digital, and then I got promoted in 3 months of head of marketing, and I think I had 26 people under me, so it was a massive team. Yeah, really big team. And again, fashion is a drama queen, so it's really a drama queen in terms of all the industries I've worked in. There's always a drama going on, and of course lots of women, so it can get a bit tense, but it's been incredible, and I've learned a lot, and I've got a lot of lessons I wanna share with you guys today in terms of that.
I mean, Laricea, just what a career you've had. You should be so proud of everything that you've done, but also, I guess, like you say, the lessons that you've learned along the way, which hopefully we'll all be able to learn from today. So, gosh, I mean, I don't even know where to start. But I am going to start with I guess, the kind of challenges. What was super interesting for me to hear, well, there's so much that was super interesting, but one of the things is talking about how it's challenging to have a really, or how it was challenging to have a really big budget at somewhere like Google, which you almost had to spend, but you had to spend it effectively, right? So it feels like, oh, you're so lucky, you've got a huge budget. But I know, having, worked at pretty mega, not with probably the budgets of Google, but, worked with pretty major drinks brands over the years, and having lots of friends, of course, who've, gone on to, from places that I've worked to go and lead campaigns for Puma, for huge brands, that these challenges are ever present. However, I don't know, I'd love your opinion. What's harder, tiny budget or big budget? Like I guess the problem is that when you're used to having a big budget, sometimes having a smaller one can even be more challenging. So I'd love to know what you found more challenging, big or small.
So I think it was the big budget, actually.
Really?
Yeah. And that's because the policy of Google was really weird. So you, by any means, you were not allowed to have one penny unspent at the end of the month. So there was, performance obviously really important, but like if you had anything that was not spent, there was a disaster. And we were talking, 10 years ago when, thinking of volumes online, it was really difficult because it was not like now. Now you can blow millions without any problems, right? But back then, the internet was not at its its infancy, because it wasn't, but it was still, the volumes were not as big as they were now. Imagine there were no apps, there was none of that, right? And video was just emerging and all that, so it was really difficult to spend it. But as I said, it wasn't just about spending it and like lots of it, but also ensuring that it's against the right target audience and it's efficient, and we've got the sort of engagement and response we wanted to. Of course, we had to see the sales of the Chromecast and the Chromebook. So it was, all together, it was really challenging. So yeah, I think it was the big budget and the fear that, oh my God, someone is going to disappoint me, because they might say, oh, we haven't spent as much, we haven't had as much traffic, we haven't had as many sales as we should, and then I'm returning you the money, we only spend X. And it's like, and even today is like, with the latest campaigns, it would always often happen that because of the strict targets we had, we couldn't spend, because we had, that was the max we could spend on a cost per click that would work backwards in terms of ROI. So if it goes above that, we can't spend. So we would be left with money, because it would be a money losing business if we would spend more than that. So there was a tipping point, and that's exceptionally frustrating. That's horribly frustrating. So I think, yeah, for me is the having big budgets but like super strict targets, it makes your life horrendous. Whereas, if you've got a smaller budget and perhaps looser targets, you're a bit more relaxed.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because you feel like, oh, more money means less problems. I feel like that in real life a lot of the time as well, but it often isn't the case. Yeah. So knowing how the market is at the moment, unfortunately, most businesses don't have that problem at the moment. Budgets are being pulled, whether we're in recession or a credit crunch or cost of living crisis, whatever we want to refer to it as, it's really tough out there. Brands, left, right and center. And the same with my clients, it's taking longer for them to get sign off. Budgets are now, we're recording this in December, and a lot of my clients are only just having their budgets for next year released, which is crazy. In terms of, the normal cycle. So we've got less time to plan and we've got less money. What I guess brands and agencies do to maximize opportunities and really be innovative with these smaller budgets and timeframes?
Yeah, so I guess that for us, the lessons I've learned is that I got really strict in the past few years in terms of how does performance look like, and taking into account. So now I'm talking strictly retailer, but this can be applied to pretty much any brand, because you need to understand what are your costs beyond marketing, right? So the easiest way of looking at things and performance is I've spent X amount and I got X amount of sales or X amount of clicks or whatever the KPIs are. But there's a lot more to that, right? So if you look at sales, what goes into your sale, it's a lot more than media money, right? You have to look at your returns. Retailers, and especially in fashion, there is the biggest problem at the moment, number of returns, which is through the roof, over 50% at some brands, which is insane. And obviously it bleeds money for businesses. Look at returns, look at overheads, right? Your marketing team, your costs for marketing team. Look at, again, if you're a retailer brand, everything that's related to shipping, returns, all of that. So we start taking into consideration all these elements before actually assessing which channels are working best. And when we start doing that, we realized that we were spending 80% of our budget in social media, and that was actually making a loss. So that was the aha moment. It's like, oh my goodness, this is mad. So really first thing to do is all brands have got tons of data. Take your numbers seriously and go beyond just marketing numbers, media numbers, if you like, because that's a lot more to that, to truly understand the cost of your campaigns. Now, after you've done that, reassess your splits, because as I say, social media looks brilliant and can be great, but if you're really taking into account the true costs, it might be a money-losing situation. And then after that, obviously, we start reinvesting in the channels that were working a lot better for us. Pay-per-click, search, paid search, and then affiliates and influencers, funnily enough, but making sure that we are able to track returns and take them into account. So by doing this exercise, I managed to maximize the budget, because instantly we start delivering a lot more sales than we were before from just, social media 80% and 20% everything else. And by tracking everything, again, I was able to justify any new tests, because with everything, so for example, if we were running TV ads, we would always have a code for the ad. If we were running magazine ads, we would have a QR code that you would scan to go to the website or download the app, and we would know exactly where the person came from. With out of home, QR code again. So we made every single channel, no matter if it's offline or digital, we made it trackable. So we understood straight away where is it coming from, and obviously taking into account that things like TV, magazines, out of home, they have the element of branding, which obviously is not easily quantifiable. I mean, almost impossible. So it's not just pure sales we're looking at. We have to take that element into account and not comparing them with social media or search or affiliates, which is pure performance channels. So that's the first thing I did. And then after that, I start looking and working with our partners and agencies to kind of understand what are the options, because budgets were getting cut quarter by quarter, but then the KPIs we had to see sales were going up quarter by quarter. It's like, guys, but this does not make sense. Like, how more are we cutting for? Like, how more can you cut this budget? Like, what am I left with? Whereas, the numbers are going up. And at the same time, the industry very tough, because people are buying less and less because of the crazy prices at the moment. And also there are more and more competitors, because we had brands from China coming over, taking over the internet, putting our prices up for paid media, like artificially increasing our prices. So we were squeezed from all directions. So from the company itself, from consumers, from competitors, like, oh my goodness. And also paid media is not just getting more expensive, but less performance as well, because people are engaging less and less. People are fed up with ads, with traditional ads. We are exposed. I love this stat and I love to quote it every time. We are exposed to more than 40,000 messages a day across the moment we wake up and we take that phone to the moment we go to bed, over 40,000 messages. Like, it depends, can be a magazine, can be an Instagram ad, can be on the tube, email.
Yeah.
So everywhere, it's insane, right? So what do you remember? What do you make what purchase do you make? Like, what decision do you make on the back of 40K messages a day? Yeah.
That's the inspiration for the book, right?
Yes. So it's just insane, right? So as I said, it's not only becoming more expensive, but it's also becoming less performance. So people do not interact with media as they used to. And we've seen numbers, year on year. Every time I was pulled in, senior meetings, and was asked, well, why are the numbers not looking like last year or 2 years ago? It's like, well, because people are not engaging with our campaigns as they used to. And there's two reasons for that. Three reasons or four reasons even. It's increased competition. It's this collapse of the brands I was working on after the closing of the actual physical shops. It's the lack of money that our target audience was very price sensitive, so they were always after bargains, and also the lack of engagement with media. So it's like there's so many factors. It's like, what can a marketeer do first to combat all these things, and also have an internal fight with their board? So yeah, it was really tough. So taking all these things into consideration, I was like, we need to find other ways of driving these new customers and also retaining existing ones, because with purely paid media, we're not getting anywhere. So we start focusing a lot on two things. So one was SEO, so organic search. Building a team. So we hired a team on SEO who start working on our websites. And basically in 3 months, between 2.5 months and 3 months, we start seeing results. Results meaning driving sales organically. So appearing in top results, appearing against certain categories, like becoming, the absolute it brand in certain categories, like dresses, for example, summer dresses for DP and Wallis as well. So owning certain niches and focusing on these niches and appearing against those organic searches, and therefore driving those sales and getting this channel to become a constant source of revenue. So SEO for me is one of the best channels in marketing to drive performance. You do need to invest some time and effort in it, but once that's done, it will keep coming. It will keep giving. It's absolutely brilliant. So I would definitely advise for brands to focus more on their SEO, and obviously it makes your paid media cheaper as well. It impacts directly that. And then the other thing we did was around app. So as we know, we live on our phones. We have them all the time with us.
Right here.
We have a lot of apps. I think the average number of apps is like 35 in UK, which is insane. Like, how do you
Mine is more than that.
I bet, yeah. I said the average, yeah.
I mean, I don't even think I'm using most of them.
Well, yeah.
I'm going to have a look in a minute and we'll work out how many I've got, but way too many.
Yeah. So average 35. So imagine. So that's what we do all day long. We are on our phones. So what better way of like engaging with audiences than through the app? We also look at numbers again, and we realize that in-app customers, so people who have downloaded the app for the 3 brands, were spending 7 times more in-app than they were on website, the normal website. And we thought, hang on a second here. So if I can get, 10% more of those, I can hit my sales numbers without any issues. So we start working with this brilliant company called Brunch. They have not paid me to advertise them. I'm just, I was truly impressed. And what they do, they are a mobile measurement platform, MMP, as we call them. And they start helping us growing the app through various different organic ways. So we haven't put any money against it in terms of paid media. So we have not run paid app download campaigns or any of that. It was purely all organic. So we've done that through QR codes in offline. So we did out of home, we had QR codes, and if you were scanning it, straight to the app. We knew exactly where they were coming from. Magazines as well. Every time we had a pop-up shop or a pop-up event or anything, we would have QR codes there so people can download the app. We start integrating in our emails for all the existing customers who didn't have the app. Super easy. Just click here, download the app. We start doing it on our organic social channels. We start having a link on our Instagram. So everywhere. We even discussed, before I went on maternity, we were discussing about putting QR codes on the clothes labels, so you can literally just download the app.
Isn't it amazing though to go? There's a couple of things I want to say here. One, QR codes, because we didn't really know. We thought they were going to be mega, and then they almost disappeared, and then back they've come, and they're really, really bloody useful now. So it's really great to hear a fantastic success story for something that we maybe thought wasn't gonna last. The other thing, can I ask, which I do think is, again, it's not a form of advertising, but it's a tactic to get people hooked in. Did you offer, because I'm honestly the biggest shopaholic ever, did you offer, because once they're in your owned channel, yes, your website is also your owned channel, but an app just feels a bit more, you're there, like you say, people are obviously spending more money on it, a discount for their first purchase or something like this.
Yeah, 100%. So we had discount for first purchase, but also for app we had specific promos. So I always said in our e-commerce calls, if you like them, where we were discussing the future promotions, right? And there was one line for email, there was one line for web, but then there was always a line specifically for app, which was the best line. So and we did it on purpose to encourage more and more people to use the app, because we knew that they are spending more, and if we have better promotions on the app, people will come more. So 100%, and that's the secret, right? At the end of the day, to get you download it, you've got it, you use it, so then encourage them and get them to keep coming back.
Yeah, it's so true. I can profess as a shopaholic, I'll get involved because I'll get a discount, and then you get notifications, and then there are brands that I love, that I will just continue to go back for, and it's almost like, the fashion industry, I think, and retail customers have done really, really well at this, whether they're a beauty brand, a retailer, a fashion brand, whatever it might be, that they've started to create this community, like H&M you become a member, and then you get certain offers on certain days, you get 10% off, or they have specific discounts, and you're starting to feel like you're part of this community or this special club, because you're getting special offers, you're getting maybe special news. Some of them, I think, unfortunately, COVID disrupted this a little bit, but we're also doing, private events, or, starting to think of more immersive shopping experiences, because we're not going into shops anymore that you get exclusive access to when you become a member. I think Topshop actually, sadly, obviously not, well, they're on ASOS, but they're not, they don't, I miss Topshop, sorry, can't talk. Miss Topshop on Oxford Street so much. That was like, I'm so sad that's gone. It was like one of my favorite shops, and grew up with it, and spent so much time there. But it's really interesting to see how digital has supported actually something that's quite human and a really basic human need.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny that you say that for Wallis, especially for Wallis, because, the Wallis lady is slightly older, slightly more mature, we like to call her. And she loved an experience, like she saw it as an experience to go to the shop, try all these fantastic clothes, buy a couple of dresses, and then go and treat herself with a lunch with a friend and stuff. So like a lot of the events we were thinking to do for Wallis before I left were around this. So how do we bring this store experience back through events and pop-up stores? So, people are saying that the high street is dead, and, that physical experience is dead, but that is not true, because people are still craving it. And, the more you can get closer to the clothes and see them and feel them and see how they look on you, the better your experience is going to be, and the more you're going to shop at that brand. So it's really hard for retailers, and especially fashion retailers, to kind of, how do you bring that back? And how do you give them the opportunity to see and feel? And that definitely helps with the return issue. So it's an ongoing problem, I think. But to your point, I think that having these events and being part of this community, and giving people the chance to get closer to the brands, I think that is the answer. So
totally. And I don't think that's good. I agree with you. It's not not just the Wallis ladies. Like, my daughter's 15, nearly 16, and she loves going shopping with her girlfriends. That's what she wants to do of a weekend, or when she's on school holidays. Like, she wants to go, and she gets annoyed because the shopping experience, we don't live in central London, so the shopping experiences that she has available to her aren't as great, because the high street is not as buzzy and brilliant as it was when I was her age. So I think there's, I think it's going to be really interesting seeing, specifically how fashion evolves or how brands market themselves over coming years, how they utilize digital, how they take advantage of some of these technologies to really, maximize their opportunities, and how some of that real life stuff might come back. You spoke about, and I'm super interested in this, because I'm always looking at new tools and how to track things. Of course, you're understanding the data so that you can make those really important strategic decisions, more important than ever. When budgets are in mind, you've got to understand what's working, what isn't working, where to place more time and effort, and also keep your finger on the pulse, because the world's always changing. So there are fantastic platforms out there that enable us to do that. You referenced one. Were there any other tools, platforms, partners that you worked with to help you disseminate that? Because it's really, really you can have all these data points, but you've got to track it, and then you've got to understand it. So I'd love to understand a bit more about how you did that.
Yeah, so 100%. So I think that in terms of the actual overall tracking, we haven't had a tool to look at measuring every single channel we can, because it's really hard, and we had this discussion last week. But what we've done is like a combination of the Google Suite, which I think everyone has, every single brand has, looking at the various different channels, and then combining this with the mobile experience, so MMP, as I call it, mobile measurement platform, but also integrating it with your customer data platform, so CDP, which is linked to your email address as well. So like managing all your email addresses and managing, those lists and how you communicate with them, and syncing it with what's happening on your website. So that's your CDP, as we call it, customer data platform, that links together emails, what's happening with existing customers, and what's going on your website. So to be able to tell the difference between someone who's brand new, has never been on your website, and you show that person specific promotions, specific pages, etc., versus someone who has shopped a million times and they are logged in and they don't want to see the item that they just bought. Because I've been through this experience myself as a customer, and I'm just like gobsmacked. But how many brands send you an email with a discount for an item you just bought, and you're like, why are you doing this? I'm so annoyed.
It annoys us.
I just bought that, and you're sending me a 10, and here's 10% off your next purchase. Like, are you actually... Yeah.
So we want to see the brands being clever. We expect it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's where digital really comes into play right now, because me as a consumer, and maybe because I host this podcast and I work in the world of digital and marketing, my expectations may be even higher, but I get annoyed, and it will turn me off working with a company if they make a mistake like that. And I think customers in general, because we get such fantastic experiences from, to a certain extent, Amazon and other platforms, we come to expect that now. So we've got to be really clever. Can I ask, because of course, a lot of my clients, as you know, have customer data platforms. And in fact, we're doing a whole report and content series and events around personalization and CDPs next year for one of my content clients. And this, you're probably not going to mention them. If you do, I'm going to be like, oh, yay. But which platforms have you used and had a really great experience with?
So we changed a lot because of the group direction. That was the one thing where I didn't have any sort of like liberty of like making decisions, because when you're part of a big group and these are data decisions that are made outside the marketing team, which is fair enough, because you get better deals, you get better customer service, and it was the same with the affiliates platform as well. So we used 3 or 4, to be honest, and I was never impressed by any of them. So I would not give any names now, because I have not met, like I mentioned Branch because I think they are the best in terms of MMP, but for CDP, I did not meet anyone that would wow me. I think there are a few really good players there, which I would love to try to work with. But I think what we didn't get to manage to do is link that bridge between sign-ups, so existing customers, just email customers, and non-customers. We were at that point, and it was still like a blur, and I think we were still delivering really bad experiences, to your point, where we would give an existing customer, we would send someone like on the website, like a pop-up, because you know how you can have these pop-ups, like an offer that was not 100% personalized. So we didn't get to the point of personalization where I would have wanted to be. And obviously that helps a lot with, again, in terms of more organic tactics, if you like, is how you treat people who land on your website, right? How well you know them, because the better you're going to know them and the more personalized the experience is going to be on when they arrive on your website, and also when they receive the email from you, the better the sales are going to be. Whereas, I'm still amazed at the number of emails I receive from brands I absolutely love about things I'm not interested in, about things I've already bought, about, things that are not relevant. It's like, come on, guys, I'm expecting you to know me by now. Like, I've been buying from you for so long. And I'm not going to give names now, but, there are really big brands from UK that are absolutely brilliant and they do a great job in marketing overall, but the emails I'm receiving from them, or the experience on the website is like, really, I'm logged in, like, you have all my data, and then the email, you're talking directly to me, is like you're talking to me now, and it's like I would treat you like anyone. I wouldn't call you your name and I wouldn't know anything about you. It's like, why are you not using this?
Connect
right?
it.
Connect it. Just connect, because you have the technology. But it's hard work. And that's what I'm saying. Before I left for maternity, we were not there yet. And it was very frustrating. So I'm still working on making up my mind about CDPs.
Yes.
I have not met the perfect one yet that would also bring the mobile element as well, because that's a problem.
Well, I'll have to get you to come to some of the events that I'm doing with my clients.
I would love to.
And hopefully you can fall in love with them.
I would love to.
Because it is really interesting what's happening. I'm so with you. I actually had an email yesterday from Space NK where I've actually messed up and I couldn't remember my login details. So I've had to buy some stuff for Christmas online, but create a new account, which is great because I got a new £10 voucher. So I was kind of quite happy that I made that mistake. But somehow they must kind of remember me, because they were like, do you want to buy these products again? But then when I went into my order history, it wasn't there. So I can see the disconnect. But I could also see they saw the eye cream that I use. They were like, do you want to buy any of these things that I've clearly bought in store before? Again, so it is getting there.
Yeah, it is getting there.
You can see that it's happening. And I mean, look, obviously that's going to make me want to buy it, and it makes it easy for me. So happy days.
That's it.
Before we talk about one of my very favourite things to talk about at the moment, which is around, I guess, females in the workplace, we obviously touched upon the book, but tell me why you wanted to write this book and what people can learn from it.
So it was just before the pandemic, when I thought, hold on a second, I worked on so many accounts and I was actually pushed by clients to do advertising campaigns, which I was against. And I advised them, as an agency, as using agency side, I've advised and said, I do not think this is a good idea. I do not think this is fair to customers. I do not think that, we are actually telling the truth here. I think this is not very clear. And these sort of terms, if it makes sense. And they were like, no, it doesn't matter. Just do it. I was like, okay. I'll do it. But then at some point I got fed up and I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to do it. Like, I'm not doing this. Just ask another agency, and you can blame me, blame whoever, but I don't think this is right. So anyhow, basically what this book does is looking at brand purpose, which has been around for a great number of years, but has become kind of a hot topic in the past, I would say 5 to 6 years, since, the environmental issues and then greenwashing, and it's coming to it's becoming clearer and clearer how some brands are so damaging for society and environment, etc. So what I was really annoyed is that there's tons of brands out there who are still doing it in this day and age. Well, this was 2021, but in this day and age there are still brands who are doing it. On the other hand, there are brands who have actually started from a purpose, right? Take Tom's shoes. And I love to give this example everywhere. Or Patagonia. Or The Body Shop. So their purpose was not to make profit. Their purpose was to do something good for the society, to help a cause or the other, right? And by doing that, they expanded and transformed into a multi-million, billion, trillion pound business. And that's what this book celebrates. And that's what this book advises consumers and marketeers, that it is possible to make profit and also do something good for the society or the environment. There is a framework in there that helps brands who are newly created to follow this whole purpose path, or for brands who have been around for a long time to retrofit it. I've taken some interviews with some people from the industry to get their views on brand purpose. And I also have like a couple of chapters which are very cool. One is about, the unsung heroes. So people who are doing it and they don't shout about it. They just quietly do it, and they've been helping millions of people or the environment or whatever, and they don't put it on t-shirts or slogans or anything else. And then another chapter about the brands who have been shouting about it, but actually it's all about greenwashing and there's nothing real in it. It's just more greed for profit. So that's what, and I felt the need because I felt the need to read it, to write it, because I feel like that's, as I said, there are so many unsung heroes out there, and so many brands who were taking credit for something that they were not doing, and it felt really awful. And it felt like a lot of articles and a lot of people are talking about brand purpose as part of your business strategy and how to use it. It's like, no, there's none of that. Not take a step back. Brand purpose is not about profit, is not about your business strategy, is none of that. It's the North Star of what you're doing. Is the why. Why are you doing it? And if the answer for that is to make money, that's not your purpose.
No. And I think that leads me quite nicely to my next question. So thank you for giving me a segue, because I mean, look, there's, as much as I want to earn money, the change I really feel I can make is inspiring women to stand up, inspiring, the younger generation, and hopefully, making the marketing world, at least, if I can have an impact in one space, a little bit fairer for the fantastic females that are brave enough to stand up, put our heads above the parapet, if I can talk correctly, and really start to make some change. So on that, I want to ask you two questions to end today's podcast. I've got this collaboration with MadFest, which I'm hoping you're going to come and join me on stage at some point at the festival in July 2024. Two questions I have. First up, I want you to tell me the kind of real stories that you've experienced as a woman that have been tough, because I think what we don't share enough are the things that, that give us imposter syndrome. There's a reason us females more often than men, have imposter syndrome. So what's happened to you in your career that's ever, if it has ever, given you that little bit of imposter syndrome?
Oh, yeah. I think I had imposter syndrome. Obviously, not being English and not having, English my first language, that I've always had this doubt in my head. Is like, oh, my God. And especially after the more senior I got, the more like it crept in my head that, oh, wow, what if I'm going to make a grammar mistake? What if I can't find my words? What's going to happen? So like there is something for, all the women in this industry who come from, different various backgrounds, and we love to celebrate them. It's something that always scared me, but I managed to go over it. And I think the more experience you have, the more at ease you're going to be with that. So that was kind of a first thing that really scared me. But I guess imposter syndrome, I think it started the more senior I got, the more I started asking the question, but like, why did they choose me? They could have chosen someone else, and why is it me? Also because I think that in life, you've got to celebrate yourself. Throughout my career, I think I can count, I had many, many roles. I can count on my fingers, no more than two, where people who were above me, who were supposed to be my mentors and my supporters, celebrated my achievements rather than tell me that, okay, that's fine, but what's next? So I didn't have much support there, to be honest. And I've learned that, if I'm not celebrating myself, then, and if I'm not honoring my work, and if I'm not shouting about my work, then no one else is going to do it. So I think first advice for everyone would be proud of what you're doing and shout about it. Don't be shy. Don't think that, this is little, I shouldn't really talk about it. And don't be shy. Just shout about your good work, and be proud of it, and help other people you see in your teams or around you. If you see similar situations, help celebrate that. So I'm the biggest celebrator of my teams. Anyone you'd ask worked underneath me, I shout about people, and I love to celebrate them. And no matter if they are girls or boys or whatever nationality or where they come from, I love to be proud of people. And as a line manager, I told everyone, is like my biggest achievements are when I see people being promoted. So I think that's the biggest achievement a line manager can have. So I think, celebration of like small wins, big wins. Just celebrate your work and celebrate what you're doing and what you stand for. In terms of, awkward situations, I had loads. So starting from the fact that I was called by one of the people who I was his line manager. I was called the team's blonde secretary. And, I just started laughing because I thought, I'm not going to start crying. So what's my other option? So I was like, oh, that's exceptionally funny. But we'll have to have words about this. So I think that, when people label you because of how you look and how you dress and how you do your nails and how you wear red lipstick or whatever that is, when people start putting labels, then I think it's almost impossible to come out of that label. So the only way out of that is by proving them and proving yourself that you earned your place there and you are delivering great results. And no matter what you wear, no matter what the color of your hair is, you are an amazing person with great abilities, and you are more than equipped to do the job. And for this particular person, what I did is, through my work there and through the results I achieved, and through the praise I got, he finally came around to acknowledge that actually, yes, it's I'm not the blonde secretary. I'm actually a great marketeer, and I've achieved a lot at that workplace, and I've achieved things that they've never been achieved before. So it kind of made me more ambitious and made me work even harder to kind of show people that that is not true, and made my skin tougher. So I think that each step and each sort of like situation like this helped me toughen up my skin. And that would be my advice for everyone, is like, take it as an opportunity to learn something about yourself, and to show the world that you are not that. You are who you think you are, and you are able to do whatever you want because you're strong and powerful, and you are there for a reason, right? So that was one thing. And then another thing, which was really ridiculous, was, again, I tend to work with a lot of men throughout my career, and there were situations where I've been told that basically I'm way too girly. I wear too many bows, and I wear too many things that are too girly. So again, my response to that was to put even more bows the next day.
Yeah, I love
and
that.
wear even more pink and be even more flamboyant the next day and the days after, and just show off in big presentations that, yes, I'm wearing all of these, but look what I can deliver. So, again, it's like, toughen up.
Yeah.
And that's it pretty much.
I think for me, so the second question you've kind of already answered, but it's, you're breaking down the stereotypes. You're almost playing up to the stereotypes. So people have to stop putting people in boxes. But also, I think as women, we have to stop the stupid comments that people sometimes make, letting them affect us. So I think we're at time. I'm getting eyed at the studio manager. We need to leave. But thank you, Laricea, so much. I mean, can I just also say one thing that I don't think we do celebrate enough is the fact that English isn't your first language. And please never feel in any way that you need to worry about your grammar, because you come across so brilliantly. You've spoken so articulately. I have learned so much, as I'm sure you guys have. So if you have enjoyed today, what I would love you guys to do is to go and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen. Also, I'd love to hear some comments if you enjoyed today's podcast. 100%. So please do. Any questions, anything you want to hear about, I'll make sure all of the show notes from today's episode are in all the show notes. All the things that we've spoken about are in the show notes. Absolutely. Laricea, I'll make sure we've got a link to where people can go and find your book.
Fabulous.
And I will see you guys, or hear you guys, or you'll hear me back here next week.
Thank you so much.